Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Now, this is my new friend, Jayden. Jayden, I've only connected with Jayden. I don't know, I guess we've been texting back and forth just a little bit for a couple of months maybe, but we've just kind of been chatting a little bit in the last couple of weeks. And my goodness, I know I've told you guys a little bit in a couple of posts leading up to tonight, but he's got some mad skills. It's true. I had a one-on-one session with Jayden, and before I even tell you that, I should tell you who Jayden is. Jayden is an emotions and relationships coach for women. He's a published author, speaker, coach, trainer, husband, and father. And I've been following him a little bit just recently, and I have been really impressed with the way that he can bring clarity to situations that we each encounter in life. And so I had my one-on-one session with him, and I did tell you guys that I basically cried the whole way through. And in 1 hour, we made sense of my childhood and identified some issues in my life and figured out how to fix them. Like in 1 hour, it was incredible. So tonight we're actually talking about a particular topic that, again, is very relevant for every human being that has ever lived on Earth, basically, which is, why, and forgive me, Jayden wouldn't call it this. He called it something much more beautiful, but I'm going to call it why we don't keep commitments to ourselves and how to fix it. But Jayden he's got a much nicer way of putting it. He called it empowering your self-worth through healthy personal boundaries, which is much more accurate, I would say. But Jayden, would you please just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can dive into this very juicy topic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leigh. I really, really appreciate it. So, hi, I'm Jayden. I am from Brisbane, originally from Melbourne. My whole family, we moved up here a couple of years ago. I've got my wife, Hannah, and 2 kids. We are an unschooling family. So we're living the wild journey of that, which is super, super fun. And for the last 3 years, I've been studying to be a coach. I've been training other coaches in the space, and I'm also running my own business as an emotions and relationships coach, as you said. I've got a team of coaches working with me now, and our mission is to really help and serve and support women on their journey through life so they can have the best relationships possible. Crazy how I fell into the space, but here I am and loving every single moment of it.
So good. Guys, I can see that there's quite a few of you jumping on. As you jump on, please can you say hi in the comments? Let us know whether you've met Jayden before online somewhere or whether you're brand new to Jayden. It's amazing that it's like when I spoke to you, it feels like you've been doing this for like over a decade. It must just come very, very naturally to you.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. I've just surrounded myself with some of the top people in the world and just learned from them directly as much as I possibly could. It's really beautiful to see everyone coming in. So hello, everyone. And I've just made this my absolute obsession for the past few years. I studied personal development for years before that. I had a lot to do about rediscovering myself after brain injury with our daughter when she was 2 years old. So there's a big journey there of self-development, self-discovery. And once I started realizing and getting the kind of the freedoms for myself, I'm like, how do I help others do this? And so that's what really started my journey to learning how to articulate myself and then guide other people to feeling as good as I do.
And why women? I bet you get asked this question a lot, right? Like you're a relationship coach for women.
Yeah, so it's fair that I should explain myself. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Who am I to be coaching women, right? So I actually wanted to coach men first and foremost because I saw a lot of men in the hospital when we were at the Royal Children's Hospital. We were running McDonald House for over 2 months. And I saw a lot of families breaking down in the ICU, and I really wanted to help men because I could see a lot of the men were really struggling during those times. And so I wanted to help men. And I started really focusing on mindset because that's where my growth was at the time, focusing on mindset. And once I started really diving deep into coaching really, really heavily, I started learning and exploring new things about emotions, emotional expressions, how to process a lot of built up stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is the jam. This is what I really need to do. So all my messaging started to change to then target being an emotions coach for men. That dropped like a lead balloon, because apparently guys don't like talking about their emotions too much. But what ended up happening is I had a lot of women reach out to me asking me to help their husbands. I would reach out on their behalf. I'd hear nothing back. But all these beautiful and brave women would still be sharing what's going on with them, their frustrations in their relationships, how they're not feeling validated or having space held for them, or feeling let down or unappreciated. I'm like, I can help you with that. We want to jump on a call. And before I knew it, all of my clients were women, and I knew this was the space I was meant to be in. It just,
you are meant to be in that space. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I know that you can talk underwater about the topic that we're going into tonight, so we can dive straight in. But before we do, Kerry, I did accept your friend Amanda. So Amanda, hopefully you're here. Welcome. And lots of people are brand new to you, Jayden. And I'm so sorry, you guys. I hope that in the description of this post, I'm really hoping that it came through. There should be a link that allows the streaming software I'm using called StreamYard to show me your name. So at the moment, I'm just seeing lots of Facebook users instead of your name. I can see Misha and I can see Jordana and Kerry, but not many more. So if you want me to see your name, please can you click the link in the description if it's there. And if not, that's okay. You can just pop your name in the comment as you comment. That'd be awesome. So at the end, we are hoping to allow enough time for some questions. I know that, we all face stuff in our life that can be quite challenging, and we want to make change. We want to commit and create the positive change that we see for ourselves. A lot of us see a vision for our future that might be a little bit different to what it is now. And hopefully we all do. We're all trying to progress a little bit all the time, right? But I, for one, have spent years in this cycle of seeing a better vision for myself, but feeling like I'm just kind of going, and I've heard this reflected in lots of your comments leading up to tonight, but feeling like you're in this roundabout where you commit. It's like you wake up on like the theoretical like Monday morning and you say, right, I'm going to do X, Y, Z today. And by 2 p.m., or I'm not going to do X, Y, Z today. By 2 p.m., you've done exactly what you said you wouldn't do, or you haven't done what you said you would do. And you start to feel a bit of lack of confidence in yourself. You start to maybe even feel a little bit of shame, and then you recommit. And then it just all kind of keeps on going over and over again. And so what's really interesting is that over time, and Jayden would probably support me when I say this, that maybe it's women more than men who tend to honor the commitments we make to other people. But when it comes to ourselves, there seems to be something missing that contributes to us not honoring ourselves and what we really want for ourselves. Thankfully, in the last 12 months, I've seemed to have found a little bit of a shift in that cycle, which I've shared with many of you over in the No Fast Nourished membership. But I've still got a ways to go, and I'm so looking forward to learning from Jayden. So without further ado, Jayden, would you please start talking with us about this issue and why it is that happens?
Absolutely. That's such an important topic. And essentially, and all of you know this as good as I do, right, is that women are culturally and societally accepted or conditioned to be seen and not heard, and to have their value derived from them serving others. And so what that tends to lead to is a lot of internal dialogue about, I'm not worth anything unless I'm serving, unless I'm giving, unless I'm offering, unless I'm doing something for others. And there can be a hell of a lot of pressure, especially for mums as well, to be shown as the person who will sacrifice themselves for others, to sacrifice their own needs for their children, like it's a hill to die on, like you get a trophy at the end for how much you destroy yourself in order to serve others and show that you are demonstrating how committed you are as a mum. And what that ends up leading to is complete burnout, adrenal fatigue, and people pleasing, and incredible lack of boundaries. And so this self-care just goes out the window as some sort of like rare luxury that you might get once or twice a year, if that. And so it's like this kind of badge of honor that a lot of women wear because they feel pressured like they have to. And a lot of women's groups as well put that pressure on each other. It's also internal. It's internally motivated also. And that can be really, really painful. And so understanding how we shift this is really important. And is one thing that I share with all my clients, that self-care is not selfish. Okay, self-care is not selfish. And knowing that if we truly want to be person we want to be, if you want to be the woman you want to be, the partner you want to be, the mum you want to be, then it's all about making sure that you fill your cup first. You fill your cup, and then from the abundance, from the overflow of your cup, you pour that into others. You pour that into your family. You only share from abundance. If you fill your cup and you keep it all for yourself, that's called selfishness. But if you fill your cup and share with abundance, then we're good to go.
Can you repeat that? I think that needs repeating.
If you self-care and fill your cup without sharing it with others, that's selfish. If you fill your cup and it overflows and you share only your overflow, that's coming from abundance. That's how we want to serve. But we cannot pour from that empty cup. It's the typical thing, right? We make sure we put on our oxygen mask before we put on our kids or any other one on the airplane. It's really important to understand that. And so when it comes to honing our focus and really keeping ourselves in check during the day, it's about understanding who we want to be and what we truly value. So is that the direction you wanted to talk about tonight, Leigh?
Yeah, the direction that everyone just seems to be resonating so well with is that we want to make headway with how we see a better life for ourselves. And we've identified exactly what it's going to take to get there. We want to, eat better. We want to exercise. We want to rest. We want to do the self-care. We want to do this, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, it just seems to, those commitments that we make, those little micro commitments that it's going to take day in, day out to get to this grand vision, seem to just fall by the wayside to other priorities. And I can put my hand up to that as well. Like sometimes it just feels impossible to get to you and to really put yourself first. Yeah. And so we've spoken a little bit in the past about the principles at play behind all that. And what you said was just gold. So I would, let's get into your theories as to why that is, because I think it's spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone watching at home, I'd love for you, if you've got a pen and paper nearby, or even if you just want to use the chat, I'd love you to utilize it. And I want you to put in what your values are. Now, before you do this, I want to preface what values actually are. So what we value, a value is an emotional experience that we want more of. An emotional experience that we want more of. That's what we value. That's what we prioritize there, okay? So you may say that you value hiking, right? Or bushwalking, or you might value yoga or health and fitness. But ultimately that all comes down to a feeling. So if you're going on a hike, well, then you value the feeling of freedom, of moving your body, and what feeling that is associated with it. So everything is emotional at its base. We are emotional creatures, and we have a mind that we use to think. Okay, so it's emotions first. That's very, very important to understand. So we're always motivated by emotion. And so what I want you to write down or start exploring right now is, what do you value? As in, what emotions do you want more of? And I want you to think of a personal thing here. So this is where you get to be, quote unquote, selfish right now, and start exploring, what do you value? And so what we do, the best way to do this is, I want you to imagine if you had the perfect day where you got to spend it just for you, doing all the things that you want to do. How would you spend it? Would you make yourself a nice, beautiful breakfast? Would you move your body? Would you listen to some music? Would you play music? Would you dance in your living room? Would you take the dogs for a walk? Who would you see? Who would you connect with? How would you spend your day? Maybe you would do some painting, right? Like, how would that day look? So I want you to start exploring that and just letting those ideas, those values just percolate inside of you. And then on top of that, I'd love you to consider, what are the characteristics of yourself that you love the most, that you really appreciate about you? So it might be that you're kind or compassionate. It might be that you're fun and love adventure. What is it about you that you just really admire and you think, yeah, this is a good quality of me that I really appreciate? Gordana says resting and reading. Beautiful. So you really get to explore all these. Being a kind and compassionate. Yeah, love that. Really, really love that. So allowing all of these to sit inside of you is super important. So,
Jayden,
yes, go for it.
I'm just going to pop something up on the screen there. Can you just say again what it is that they're answering? What is it about you that you
value, that you appreciate about yourself, like one of your characteristics?
Okay.
Like a quality, a trait, a personal trait about you.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we do this, it can feel really good to like touch those feelings and connect with them inside of ourselves. But then we get to do something that kind of sucks a little bit, which is just pause for a moment and say, am I experiencing these values enough in my life right now? Am I actually experiencing what I value? Now, for a lot of you, that's going to be no. There's going to be some crosses against those to varying degrees. So say you value your personal time or you value, listening to music, but when was the last time you made any personal time for yourself to actually treat yourself? Maybe you really value, writing. When was the last time you've journaled or written anything in your book? So even though you value it, it doesn't mean that you're actually living it or experiencing it. And this is important because we want to create that polarity, that difference, that gap in between to really help you realize that you've got something that you value, but you're not prioritizing it. Now, this is where we get to really dive into why you're getting the results that you're getting in your life. And so how that plays out is in our standards. So for example, if you value your health, but you don't take care of your body, you don't eat the nutritious food that you know you should, that you don't move your body the way that you should, you don't go to the gym like you know you should, what that means is your standard on that value is quite low. And what that would then deduce from that is that you've got a value, a hidden value in something else where the standard is quite high. So if you value health and wellness, but you're not living up to that standard, then potentially and secretly you value comfort and ease. And the standards of that value is quite high. And so what you're having there is a conflicting value. And this is where we can undo ourselves. Our hearts, our egos, we love to seek comfort. We love to seek the path of least resistance. Yeah, beautiful. You value comfort. That's great. And you can value comfort. I love valuing comfort as well. But if value of comfort comes at the detriment of me not achieving my other values, then we have a problem. And so it's important to understand, what do we actually truly want out of life? What results do we want? And then holding ourselves accountable to those standards and knowing that no one else is going to save us. We're here to do this for us. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you can actually hear, is that no one's coming to save us.
Yes, I love that. That has actually been a massive part of any success that I've felt in this area has been complete responsibility for my own life. No one's coming to save me. I've got to actually get up and make the choices myself.
Yes, it's so powerful once we realize that. It's actually liberating because it sets us free, because no longer do we have to wait for someone to come and save us, for conditions to be right for us to live the life that we truly want to live. We get to decide when to do that. That is so empowering.
Has anyone else had an experience where they may not have embraced that concept of no one else is coming to save me, and you actually subconsciously start to resent your partner for not making it happen for you, even if you haven't even articulated what it is that you need? Has anyone kind of subconsciously thought, well, he or she's going to just come and save me because that's their job, or that's just, they love me so they'll make it happen? I feel like that's maybe a trap that some of us fall into.
It can so easily be a trap. It really, really can. And so when it comes to holding ourselves to the standards that we truly deserve, the reason why we're doing this is because ultimately this is all connected to our boundaries. Our boundaries determine the quality of our life. And boundaries are not just to keep other people out of our space, but it's also to keep us in check with our own values. So what I mean by that is if you do value health, but you're not living congruently with those values, what that's going to mean is that you're consistently violating your own boundaries. So, for example, and just to let you know, I've been on my own health journey myself. I come from a morbidly obese family. I've lost over 35 kilos on my own health journey.
Wow.
So I fully appreciate and understand the temptation, right? And coming off, unhealthy foods and completely changing my lifestyle. And I remember the journey when, you'd go to the service station to pay for petrol and have all the candy bars, like all the chocolate bars there. And it's like, oh, I do love myself a Boost bar, and maybe I deserve it. I have been working hard, right? And I'll have that Boost bar, and that feeling of I know I shouldn't, but I did it anyway. And then we have the bite, and like, oh, it's all worth it. And you kind of like try and lock it out and like push it away and just like have it guilt-free, but it kind of can niggle at the back. You'd be like, oh, you let yourself down again, Jane. Like, why'd you do that? Right? That feeling, that icky feeling that you get inside, that is what happens when you violate your own boundaries. That's what happens as an indicator to say you are not living congruently with the woman that you truly want to be. This is a very, very important thing to understand. Yeah, Amanda, should is definitely a punishment. That's all conditioned around shame, 100%. So it's important to understand when we do what's called a values elicitation. I know we just briefly touched on it about, getting clear on some of your values that you want. When we do like a full-on exercise of this, it usually goes for like an hour, right? Really understanding and unpacking each of your values, because you've got relationship values about communication and connectedness and intimacy and all these sorts of things. And it becomes this really beautiful amalgamation and expression of you on that page. And when you write it all down and you look at it, it's beautiful expression of you. And you think, wow, like that's me. That's the best version of me that I could possibly ever hope for. That's my higher self. That's who I aspire to be. That's what I want my life to be like every single day. But when you're not living through those values, you're completely incongruent with them. And so therefore, you're not going to be getting the results that highest potential of you could possibly get. And so that's that feeling. And that feeling can be pain, it can be shame, it can hold you back, where you just want to hide from yourself and hide from others and can't make commitments to yourself because you continuously break your own trust. This is what you were speaking about before, Leigh, which is very important to understand. If we make promises to ourselves and we don't keep them, then we take a deposit out of our trust bank. Every time we make a promise to ourselves, we put one in and we fulfill it. And so I wonder, for each and every one of you, your trust bank, how many times have you made a promise to yourself or a commitment to yourself that you followed through, and how many times have you broken that promise? Are you in surplus or are you in the minus here?
I think it's for me, it depends what topic of life we're talking about. And that's natural, right? We're gonna do this in different areas of our life. There's been a couple of people comment about conflicting values. How do you coach people on how to prioritize and order your values when everything seems like I've been in that boat too, where I feel like, well, everything is critical, everything is important. All the different areas of life, my children, my husband, my work, my health with nutrition and exercise, my hobbies, like everything's important. So how do you teach people how to get a hierarchy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, to me, they do. And what we do, how we work with it, is we establish some non-negotiables. Some non-negotiables that you are not shifting on. So, for example, some of the non-negotiables for me are healthy eating. They are being kind and compassionate to everyone that I see. that I'm always educating and learning, right? And that I'm always serving. And I've got a few others as well, but I have some non-negotiables that I do not change. Okay. And so they do prioritize over everything else. So if anything comes into my life or any of my wants or needs or desires conflict with those non-negotiables, then they don't happen. Okay. Very important to understand that, because that holds our standards quite high and it keeps us rock solid and firm into who we truly are. Now, there are absolutely times where, I do want to rest, but I've got a high standard about working hard and delivering a great service and really serving people. But there are times where I need to take care of myself. And so this is where we might have a conflicting value where I need to rest, or I need to have a day off, or I need to make an exception or allowance for a certain situation. Life is not black and white, it's gray. And so we need to make allowances and do that with compassion. Compassion for ourselves, that everything can't just be binary, that life does happen, life is complicated, and we need to make concessions and allowances for that. As long as those allowances fall within a level of parameters that we're happy with. As long as we give them the flexibility that's required to live a functional life, so that you're not so rigid that you can't enjoy things or you can't break free and you're not like militaristic. We've got to have a bit of flexibility. But if you're too flexible, then you become inconsistent. And if you're inconsistent, then you won't trust yourself. No one will trust you. And people, this is important for each of us to understand. Our boundaries and how consistent we are on them, our boundaries teach people how to treat us. So how we treat ourselves, how we show up for ourselves, is how we teach other people to treat us. So if we don't hold ourselves to a consistent standard, other people will not hold us to a consistent standard, which means they can treat us inconsistently.
I love that. I heard you say that recently on your page. You said, yeah, our boundaries are what teach people how to treat us. And but from someone who's kind of new to the whole boundary thing, it was actually really powerful. Loved it.
Yeah, it's so powerful to understand this. And when we realize that, like realize the truth of it, it cascades into so many areas of our lives. Boundary setting, when we come to boundary setting, it can be really tough, because boundary setting, especially for women, especially for people pleasers, is that when we put up a boundary, it's typically saying no. And people pleasers aren't really allowed to say no. They're supposed to say yes. But it's to understand that when you say no to someone else for the first time ever, you're saying yes to you. And that's a really beautiful thing. And saying no to someone doesn't mean that you're horrible. It doesn't mean that you're a bitch or anything like that. It means that you are taking care of you. And if someone in your life doesn't appreciate, doesn't value that, and doesn't respect that, then that shows they are benefiting from you not having that boundary. If anyone pushes back on your boundary, they are benefiting from you not having it.
And if our boundaries teach other people how to treat us, then our lack of personal boundaries will also teach ourselves what to expect of ourselves. Like you said, when we don't follow through, we withdraw from the bank account and we lose trust with ourselves. And of course, having to balance that with a little bit of flexibility and compassion, which, do you have any guidance on that delicate dance and balance between being committed and being consistent and, putting the deposits into the bank account and building that muscle, so to speak, and the important side too of having some compassion and having some flexibility? Like, is there any guidance there around knowing how to navigate that?
Yeah, it really comes down to a case-by-case basis. So a lot of people have different levels inside of them, a different scale that they operate by. Every client that I have is completely different. Some of them are hardcore on like disciplining themselves and they need to give themselves a heap of compassion. Some of them give themselves so much compassion that they never push themselves to achieve something. Right? So understanding that balance is very important. But if we're just generally speaking, it's essentially to understand this. If you've got a part inside of you that is judgmental or critical or judging or punishing in whatever way, shape, and form that puts you off kilter, that makes you feel upset or uneasy, it's about getting really curious about what that part's role actually is for you. What that voice in your head, that mean girl in your head is, what her job is for you. Now, some would easily say like, oh, it's just like, it's the ego, or it's the bad part of me, and it's the part I wish was gone and never there again. And all it does is haunt me and hurt me. That's actually not how it works. Our ego, or those parts of us, are actually, they're us. They're expressions of us that have our best intention at heart, and their job is to protect us. Their job is to keep us safe. Now, the unfortunate and heartbreaking truth about that is they're doing it the only way they know how. And that way they know how was by modeling the behavior that they were witnessing in the moment at which they were created in our subconscious mind. So from the ages of 0 to 7, particularly our developmental years, if we were brought up in a condition or an environment where we were told that you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, dress a certain way, you look too fat in that, good girls should be seen and not heard, okay, that starts establishing a shame voice inside of us. And what it's doing, it's the heartbreaking thing, what it's actually doing is it's repeating those words to you so that you change your behavior, so that you become acceptable or lovable in the eyes of those who you needed protection from as a child. It's doing the work for you. The only way it knows how.
We are so incredible. These awesome people here might get sick of me saying this, but our bodies are incredible the way that they have our back. Like even disease and sickness, it's our body having our back. Like it's trying to help us, right? And all this is exactly the same. It's not just our physical body that has our back. Our entire being has our back. It all wants the best for us. And so even the painful things are there to help us. It's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's understanding that, yes, their intention is to help us. The way they're going about it kind of sucks and it hurts, right? And it is dysfunctional. And so how we navigate this is really appreciating and understanding what its intention is, that it is good, even though it's going about it the wrong way or a dysfunctional way. Now, it's gotten you here. This is important. You're where you're at in your life and you've had the success that you've had because of its protection, because of its voice. So it's done a good job. But it's not going to get you any further. It's not going to get you where you truly want to be. You've hit your ceiling now. And so you, as yourself, you get to look at that part and hear its message and look at it and see it for who it is. That's a little girl inside of you. She's 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever comes up for you. And she's just parroting those words. So I want you to really think about this. That little girl, when you were that age, hearing those things from your mum or your dad or a member of your family or someone that made you feel unworthy, in that moment when you heard that, what did you actually need to hear? What comforting words did you need to hear? What softness, what love, what acceptance, what compassion did you need to hear? And so when you hear that voice saying those things or putting you down or shaming or pressuring you, you counter that shame with compassion and love and understanding. And you talk to that part like you would talk to a little child in the room with you right now. You validate them, you acknowledge them, you tell them that you see their hurt, you see their pain, and you just let them share and have their voice. And their voice will not be directed at you anymore. It will be directed outward. It would be frustration, it would be pain, it would be heartbreak. And just imagine you've got a little child in that room right now and you just love them. You just give them what they need. And you nurture that part of you. You show so much love and compassion for it that it starts to simmer down and receive your love. From that place, And from that place only, can you then quench it, calm it, help regulate your nervous system, and then start choosing, who do I want to be in this moment? And what standards do I want to uphold? Who do I actually want to be? How do I actually want to show up? And what parts of me want to step forward now and want to actually lead, now that they've got space to do so, now that I'm giving them that free rein? And for those of you who have seen the Pixar movie Inside Out, where there's a little girl and she's got all of the cartoon characters with all the different emotions at the control panel. I want you to think of it like that. But imagine you've just had one or two dominating parts that have been controlling you for a long time. When you start acknowledging and validating and nurturing those parts, they start to calm down and relax and chill out and let other parts jump in and start leading and guiding your heart.
How often do we just want to shut them down, ignore them? Do you have any theories around showing that compassion and love to that little girl inside through breath work at all? Does it matter how you do it? Do you have a go-to way that you do it?
Yeah, so what the work that I do is through something called IFS, Internal Family Systems, which is developed by Richard Schwartz, and it's a really incredibly powerful system to use to help our clients. And I incorporate a lot of stuff around somatic work as well, so a lot of breath work, energy work to help you clean the energy out of your system. Because this is the important thing to understand, is that the emotion that you're feeling is emotion that's unprocessed. If any of your listeners have followed the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a world-renowned trauma expert and addiction expert. And when he talks about trauma, he talks about an understanding is that trauma is not the event that happened to you. Trauma is the unprocessed emotion from an event. So what that means is when the event happened, if you didn't have a safe space to process that emotion is trapped inside of you, and it will stay there and it will manifest in varying health diseases, pains, disruptions in any way, shape, or form. And so when we start working with our clients to move this energy through the body and release it, the transformations are incredible, like truly transformational, seeing the results come through. That's the big shift that we see for our clients.
Amazing. So amazing. Jordana, trauma festers. Simple and so true.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so I kind of took you on a tangent, but we've identified our values, some of them anyway, and we've identified what it is that the traits that we appreciate about ourselves. We've asked ourselves the question, how often am I feeling the emotions that I want to feel? How often am I in that state? So where do we go next?
Where do we go next when it comes to keeping ourselves in check? So it's about really allowing yourself to feel into who you truly want to be. And when we talk about the values that we want, it's a really beautiful thing to just take a breath, take a moment and sit with them and imagine what our life would be like if we were fully embracing and fully experiencing those values on a consistent basis. We want to know what that experience is like. When we get that baseline, that understanding, where we fill our bodies with that love and compassion and joy and elation about experiencing all the things that we truly value, we really get a sense of what life could be like for us. From that point on, we have our baseline, our understanding of what we're aiming for. So then when we want to start designing our life, we reverse engineer everything back. This is what I want to experience. So how do I get there? How do I build a life that aligns with that so that I live that on a daily basis? What does that look like? And so from that, we start reverse engineering and designing our life around those ways. So that would be changing the way we talk to ourselves. If we value compassion, but we've got shame cycles chipping away at our back, then we want to start shifting that. But instead of judging that shame and pushing it away, we treat her with compassion, knowing again it was just a little girl inside of you that just needs love and tenderness and support. And so we continue to do this, continue to raise our standards, and look at that list of values and live as congruently as we possibly can with them. Now, when we deviate from that list, understanding we're learning. This stuff is hard. You've had a lifetime of conditioning to go down the way that you've been going. To learn something new takes a lot of effort, both emotional and mental and physical. It takes time. And so having compassion for the journey is really important. So that if you fall off the bike, so to speak, it's how quickly do you allow yourself to get back on the bike and give yourself the encouragement to keep moving. That's really what it's all about. This journey is so tricky, and we do not need to shame ourselves in the process for not being where we want to be yet, or because I should have known better, than therefore I should be doing this or that. It's just so not helpful.
Our brain loves to take the track that's been the most well-worn. It doesn't like to form new pathways. It just likes to go down the way that it's been a gazillion times before. And so, yeah, our brain has to learn, has to create neural pathways that weren't there before. So we do have to give ourselves that compassion.
Yeah, definitely.
Jordana said there are so many blocks that get in the way. Jordana, can you throw one out for us? Is that all right, Jayden?
Yeah, of course. Go for it. I'd love to hear. What are some of the blocks coming up for you, Jordana?
I like this. Just while we're waiting on Jordana, I like this from Amanda. When you list the things you love, how long does it take to list yourself?
That's really beautiful.
So, Jordana, what kind of blocks get in the way for you? What kind of blocks?
Just talk generally at the moment. Yeah. So some of the blocks that we find our clients come up with is what would be labeled as a physical block. And it's essentially disassociation. So I wonder how many of you sit down to do a task and you're like, I've got to do X. But then you find yourself on your phone, scrolling or staring at a wall, or just completely blanking out and just not knowing what's going on. You're like, oh, geez, like 10 minutes has just passed. Disassociation is a block that can come up quite regularly. And it's essentially your body's defense mechanism just conditioning you to slow down and stop so you don't overwhelm yourself. Because whatever you're about to start or try to do is perceived as extremely dangerous and difficult. And that is all mindset and perception about the way we see it and the emotion connected with that. And so when we experience some of those blocks, it brings up a tremendous amount of emotional pain. And so working with the emotion and processing and cleaning that emotion out of the body is definitely a great way to go.
Here's Jordana's reply. She said, these are the blocks that she said get in the way for her. I should not think about myself. I should look after others, family, work, too many emotions, work distractions, not enough time.
So what's coming up here, this is something called safe versus risky problems. So when a client presents, or when any of us present something, we focus on the safe problem. So family, work, distractions, too busy, not enough time. All of these are what's called a safe problem. And the safe problem is what we use, the excuses that we create. And there's realness to it. I'm not going to say that you're not busy at all. But everyone on the planet has the same 24 hours in the day. Doesn't matter if you're Elon Musk, doesn't matter if you're me, doesn't matter, right? We all have the same hours in the day. And so it's how we use it and how functionally we navigate that that's really important. Now, the safe problem is saying, I don't have time. So safe problem is there to protect us as a distraction from the risky problem. The risky problem is where the work is. And what a risky problem most likely is for people who say that they're too busy, and guilty of this too, is that I'm not worthy. I can't handle it. I'm not deserving of time for me. If I put me first, what will other people think of me? Will they judge me? Will they criticize me? Will they abandon me? Will I be lovable? if I stop doing what they know me to do, if they've become reliant and dependent on me doing or being a certain way, if I stop that, what will happen? That is the risky problem to face and to experience and sit with. But we don't want to experience or sit with that because it's way too risky. So we put a safe problem in front of it.
That's an awesome reframe. Jordana, does that feel like it might be speaking to you a little bit? I can totally see myself in this.
I had to work through many of my safe problems and get to the risky ones. Jordana just said true, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what are some of the other things that tend to come up with the people that you see who want to create this change and are struggling?
Yeah, a lot of it really comes down to not feeling worthy enough or feeling deserving, right? And really, especially with women, it's along the lines of feeling like they need to ask permission. Permission to do anything, permission to try, permission to dare to dream, permission to do anything free from themselves. Permission to be anything other than what they've been prescribed to be by society, whether that's being a good wife, a good mother, or a good hard worker, or just a good girl in general, and asking permission to be anything free from that. But the truth is, you're more than just who you identify as in your role, whether that be a wife or a mother or a worker or a sister or a daughter, whatever it is. You're more than that. Those identifications are labels that you've stuck to and said that that is who you are. But when you're a child, what did you want to be? What did you feel? What were your hopes and dreams? What did you truly enjoy before life conditioned you and molded you into what everyone expected of you? And so what happens is when I work with clients is they're in this frame where they feel like they need to continuously ask permission to be anything other than what people have assigned them to be and what they've assigned themselves to be. And so knowing that you don't need permission from anyone, you just get to ask for support. That shift is absolutely huge for any woman to experience. That they no longer have to ask for permission from anyone to live life the way that they want, to explore and try new things and find out, what is my purpose? What am I here for? What do I like? You know, so many women where their children start leaving the nest and become empty nesters and like, my whole relationship, my whole marriage was predicated on these children being raised, and now my kids are left home and I've just realized that I have no connection to my husband whatsoever. And who am I and what do I even like? Who am I outside of this role? That journey is a profound journey. We either help them reconnect with their husband and find that passion and that love again, or help them discover themselves in a new, beautiful way.
Huge. I feel like we've only just begun, but I've looked at the time and we're kind of hitting on that 50-minute mark. So I want to switch over to questions. But before we do that, can you give us a little summary of what we've covered tonight? Because there's been so many little gems along the way, and I'd just love to hear it in just one little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. So to conclude tonight, what we've been talking about is understanding that if you want to have specific results in your life, it's understanding that if you're not getting them, it's because you're not clear enough on your values. And if you're not clear on your values, that you don't know what standards you need to set in order to have those consistent results. So it comes down to like inputs and outputs, right? If you're not focusing on the specific areas that you know are going to move the needle forward, then you're going to get inconsistent results that aren't aligned with who you truly are. So when we focus on understanding what our values are, we start clearly defining what our boundaries are, how we want to experience life, how we want to treat ourselves, how we want others to treat us. And so once we start getting clearer on that, our consistency about how we show up congruently with our higher self is going to be more aligned. And we're going to start getting more consistent results, whether that's eating better, getting healthier, or having a healthier relationship, better communication. Maybe it's just better self-care or better self-love or compassion. Maybe it's playing with the kids more. These results are going to start showing up when you start living more congruently with who you truly want to be, when you start filling your cup and sharing from abundance. That's really the work. Now, if you come into any blockages or difficulties along that, that's where seeking a professional coach, someone to help with, that's really important, because we don't know what we don't know, and we're all limited by our current level of awareness. And so if we don't know where to look, we can't pinpoint it or figure it out. And if we don't know how to process our emotions, which is everyone, then we need some guidance on that, because it can be a really, really big deal, because it's damn scary opening up that lid and feeling all of our emotions if we have no idea how to close it. So seeking someone to support you through that process and showing you that you can handle way more than you think you can by just some gentle guidance is going to really help you overcome some of those unconscious blockages and barriers that are holding you back from setting the boundaries and raising your standards so that you get the results in the life that you truly deserve.
Yeah, it's what did you say before? You said you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you just don't know how to get to where you want to be. And that's where I was when I came to see you this week. Remember, I said, I can see where I am at point A. I want to be at point B in this particular area of my life, but it's hazy. Like I can usually see the steps that I need to take in life. But with this area, I just could not see the pathway to get where I wanted to be. And I've told everyone that it did not take long for us to get clarity on all of that. So if you guys want to see more of Jayden and you want to work with him, he's actually given us access to a free Unshakable Boundaries program, which is epic. I've done the first 2 and I need to do the rest. The link is in the description of this post, and you can even do a free discovery call with Jayden as well, and the link is there too. So 2 super generous offers from Jayden tonight. So thank you, Jayden. I really appreciate you offering those things to us.
You're so welcome. Yeah, and I'd love for anyone who feels like they want to have boundaries for themselves or in their relationships to jump on that. We do live classes every fortnight. There's also a whole free online program as well for you to just work through and really start implementing these changes in your life.
Now, can we have 10 minutes for questions?
Of course.
All right. There's this one from Misha, and I think it's so important that we get to it. She said, when we're a sole carer of a dependent child, and there are times when you just can't do the risky thing, as it would be too high a cost. So you end up doing the safe option, which is putting you on hold in that moment. What do you say to that? And Amanda followed by saying, yes, or you're chronically ill and you depend on someone else.
Yeah, so everyone's got their challenges in life, and especially if you're a sole carer, a single mama, you know better than me, life's hard. Life's really, really bloody hard. And what can happen is, because you're doing it by yourself, then you have to work extra hard to try and give your child or children the life that you know you deserve, that they deserve. And that comes at a cost of you. And so if you're continuously running yourself down and burning yourself out in order to help them experience that, you think that you're giving them what they truly want, but what's actually happening is you're giving them fumes, you're giving them breadcrumbs, and you're giving yourself a thumbs up, like you've done a bang up job, but you're exhausted and you're not fully present and you're not able to experience them fully. So this is to shift the whole paradigm for you and actually prioritize you taking care of yourself so that you can recharge your batteries, fill your cup again, and then try that out and come from abundance. And the cool thing is, especially if you've got a daughter, teaching her to take care of herself as well. Because if you're burning yourself out right now to take care of her, what's happening is you're showing her that she needs to do that as well. So children don't do what we tell them to do. Children do what they see us do. So if we burn ourselves out to take care of them, they're going to think that burning themselves out to take care of their future partner or anyone else later is what's normal and what's necessary and mandatory. And so if you want to shift that script completely and actually help your kids really live a life and step up and know their worth, it's about you demonstrating that first and showing them what self-care looks like. And you can make it fun with them too. You can have a pamper day with them together. You can teach them how to have long baths with cucumber in your eyes, or you can start doing yoga and breath work with them. You can start doing painting stuff with them, right? Anything to show them what really nourishing and nurturing self-care looks like is going to help them tremendously. And you.
That was actually really hard for me to hear. I've shared with everyone in the group my journey with adrenal fatigue and burnout and imbalanced hormones, all because of stress and all because I was burning the candle at both ends. That's the saying. And I look at my children, and I've got 5 kids from 17 down to 7, and I feel like I've got a whole other chance with my youngest and some of the younger ones. But then I look at my 17-year-old and I think I have such limited time left with her, and I want to show her a better way of living. I want to show her what it's like to prioritize myself. And it really does give me a lot of motivation to actually get it done and actually just make the risky choice, because sometimes it is a risky choice when we have competing priorities, and there are things that can fail. The glass ball and the rubber ball. Sometimes I'm dropping the rubber balls, and sometimes I drop a glass ball, but I try not to. And so, this crucial time of life where there's just that little bit of time left with her, I really value these conversations where I get to be reminded of just how important it is to look after me and therefore look after them just by osmosis, just by them watching me.
That's so beautiful.
I'm not sure who this is because I don't have the name, but it says, it is doable. I'm a single parent and I'm going through massive changes in my life that's scary, but necessary to put myself and my daughter first. And don't be afraid to ask for help from others.
I love that. We have so many single mums working with us inside of our program, and it all comes down to priorities and shifting that around. Essentially, it becomes your story. If you say that you can't do it, if you lock yourself into a single mum identity, that single mums have it hard, single mums don't have time for themselves, single mums are limited XYZ, then that's going to be the story that you live. But if you change that story and change and redefine what a single mum can do, then you'll completely change your life and you'll allow new things into your life. It's so important.
Yes, I can speak to that one. When I changed my identity from being in survival mode, I'm in survival mode, is what I kept telling myself. For 10 years, I told myself, I'm just in survival mode. And then I woke up one day and I was like, it's been 10 years since my son was born. I think it's time to draw a line in the sand, and I'm going to detach from that identity. And it was powerful, really, really, really helpful. Are there other questions before we finish up? I know it's getting late for some people down south. I'm trying to, I know I missed some earlier, so I'll just them up. Amanda said, shoulding all over myself. The negative is much easier than thinking positively. Well, Jayden, do you have any parting thoughts for us tonight?
Any parting thoughts essentially would be this. It's appreciating that every single woman out there, you have a journey. Life is incredibly complex, can be incredibly challenging, but you don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to feel like asking for help is a sign of weakness. Asking for help means that you're becoming vulnerable. Vulnerability is the biggest sign of strength that you could ever show. I really, really mean that. I am left in awe on a daily basis about the beautiful and brave women that reach out to me asking for support and just saying, I can't do it anymore, I need some guidance. That to me shows an incredible amount of strength. And the women that want to continue to step into that and be humble enough to learn and be coachable and want to do better and to work through and do the hard thing, they are always the ones that come out on top, always the ones that change their lives, change their stories, and have better results directly because of that. And so for each and every one of you that are watching this, and maybe you're feeling triggered by what I've shared tonight, maybe you're feeling inspired by it, maybe you're feeling motivated, maybe there's a bit of guilt or a bit of shame about it, all of those feelings are okay. They are valid. They are normal. They are fine. They're allowed to be there. But if you want to feel something different, then you have to do something different. And doing something different is always going to be difficult, challenging, and painful because, like you were saying before, our mind wants to travel the path of least resistance. And that's where the term better the devil you know comes from, is I'd rather stay with this pain because it's familiar and it's safer than the potential pain outside of this safety prison. So I'm here to tell you that your prison of safety is not serving you anymore. Outside of there, it can be difficult. It's also incredibly beautiful, and you deserve to have the life that you want.
Oh, I love that. I love it so much. Misha, because I know you, I just wanted to put this up on the screen and just say a hell yes to this. I need to prioritize help for myself rather than help for me to manage my teen with her issues. I know that your daughter has some super challenging issues, and you are an amazing mother. Like, I've spoken to you at length many times, and I know how amazing you are at looking after her. And it would be so beautiful to see you look after yourself the same way. It would just be epic. And I look forward to hearing you do that. Let me know. Last thing, Kerry has obviously been on your website looking around, and she wants to, she said, could you give a couple of examples of insights into the difficult conversations guides? That's a bonus if we upgrade to VIP. Now, you're speaking a different language to me. I obviously haven't seen this. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when you jump into our Unshakable Boundaries program, you have an option to do a VIP upgrade for $97, where you get a one-on-one boundaries diagnosis session with me, so a full-blown coaching session, and you also become a VIP member, which gives you the insights for a difficult conversation guide. And so what that does is it helps break down how to have a difficult conversation with someone, so say your partner. If communication's just gone out the window, there's a massive breakdown. It's actually understanding how to have a difficult conversation, what are the rules of engagement and what that looks like, understanding how to speak in certain ways, how to validate, how to acknowledge, how to hold space, how to ask appropriate questions and take turns so that you can get to a really beautiful resolution. So it's really getting to the nuts and bolts of how to have a complex, difficult conversation and how to do that in a way that's aligned with you instead of emotionally reactive and in a non-productive way.
Well said. Sounds great. She said, I'd love to learn more about your Unshakable Boundaries course and the main differences for VIP, if there are any other upsells.
Yeah, so as I said, the VIP upgrade is the one-on-one session with me. Plus, you get access to the replays of any of the live trainings we do. And inside the live classes that we do and inside the free program, you get a feel for us, what we do, how we serve. You'll get access to me, you'll get access to my team of coaches, and just the beautiful community. From that, it's there for you to try us out, to see if you like our vibe, what we talk about, what we teach, what we cover. And if you want to join our core program from that, we'd love to arrange to have a chat with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jayden. This week, I'm going to do a few posts here in the group for those watching on Facebook rather than YouTube. I'm going to post in the Facebook group, and I'm going to ask you what your values are. And I'm going to follow up with the questions that Jayden's posed to us tonight, because hopefully we had a little quick brainstorm together tonight, but it would be even better if we could just take 10 minutes before the kids wake up in the morning or whenever it is that you get your quiet time and just like really get clear on what those things are, because without clarity, it's going to be very difficult to surmount the difficult terrain that our brain has to surmount to make new change, right? we need that clarity to be able to make the change. And so I think, Jayden has just spoken so beautifully into this tonight, and I'm really grateful that you've come and shared your time and expertise with us tonight. Thank you so much. And it's I really hope that all of you have felt what I've felt, a bit more like inspiration is not quite the right word that I'm looking for. I'm feeling clarity. I'm feeling more clarity that I know now how to go about making sure that I make more of the positive changes that I want to. So I thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate everyone's contributions inside the chat as well. It's really beautiful when everyone jumps in and really collaborates and connects and co-creates inside this space. So thank you so much for having me on and allowing me to serve your beautiful community.
Oh, look at this. Yes, I'm in Jayden's group, the Unshakable Boundaries free sign-up community. It looks amazing. Is that the name of the Facebook group? The Unshakable Boundaries?
Unshakable Boundaries for Women.
For women. Unshakable Boundaries for Women. Go ahead and join that group. I'll put the links for everything up tomorrow for those who couldn't do the link. Have a great sleep, everyone. Thanks for being with us so late, especially if you're down south. And we'll see you really soon. Thank you, Jayden.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.